Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today we're talking about a rumor that popped up, uh, well, over the weekend. And this is that Marvel is going to be looking at doing some more R-rated, TVMA-rated projects. So obviously, Deadpool and Wolverine, very successful. Marvel, I believe, has a Daredevil Born Again as a TVMA project coming up, and Echo was a TVMA project. And I think actually Wonder Man, the expectation is that's going to be TVMA as well. And this got Greg and I thinking on the podcast, what other Marvel properties would benefit from a TVMA or an R rating. Now, I don't think that we're going to see a whole flood of things that kind of get that same R rating for the reasons that Deadpool and Wolverine did. Obviously, that pushed it hard because that's the type of movie that the Deadpool movies are. But there are certain things that would work well with probably a TVMA or that R rating for it. So, kick it off, I think easily Blade. Blade and Midnight Suns and Ghost Rider, all of those could easily be R and probably should be. Because they're dealing with these kind of demonic things, vampires. You're looking at, you want some amount of blood, maybe some amount of horror with them, and I don't think that you could get that, at least not as well, without having that higher rating. Another fairly obvious one, I think, would be Punisher. Why? Because Punisher is violent. So, much like Daredevil Born Again is supposed to be TVMA, Punisher being TVMA makes a ton of sense as well, or again, R. I don't know that Marvel will do a Punisher movie, but I could definitely see a reboot of the show or something like that coming over to Disney Plus. So that'd be a spot to have another TVMA rating. Beyond that, there's certainly other characters that I think could work with a TVMA or an R. One that I talked about on the podcast is going to be Secret War. Now, not Secret Wars, the story that's being adapted for the Multiverse Saga, but Secret War, this idea of you have Nick Fury running a covert team of heroes, the heroes who are doing the stuff that the public-facing heroes can't, and it's all kind of being done in the shadows. I think this one, sure, violence could be some of the reason why it would be TVMA, but I think that this could be a really good kind of spy type of show, kind of that secret mission, and in that case, you maybe want to have a little more romance, some more intrigue, a little bit of language. Like, this is just supposed to be that darker sort of experience. So I think having the people who work in the shadows have a bit more of an edge makes a good amount of sense. Greg on the podcast brought up the idea of a Century show or special presentation or movie, whatever it might be. I think special presentation is possible, where we start to delve into kind of the void side of the Century and that dark nature and basically what that looks like on screen, and kind of lean into that as a darker motif. Beyond that, like, what are some other things that could work with that harder R or that TVMA rating? Because you think about a lot of things I don't think that we're going to have a Game of Thrones type thing for Marvel. That's always just a bit too much. But the Nova Corps show or a Nova show, if they were to adapt something like Annihilation, I could certainly see that getting a TVMA, and Richard Rider is a character who would make a fair amount of sense to have that TVMA kind of rating for them. And then another one that I think could work as either a show or a movie would be Dark Reign. So I don't know how they'd fit it in or when they'd fit it in, but this idea of the villains masquerading as heroes and somebody evil kind of running the group, Norman Osborn in the comics, but to have that kind of twisted group who is causing issues. I actually love the idea of what Marvel did with the Defenders, taking something like that, but you have Dark Reign as one side, the Dark Avengers as one side, and then you have the Young Avengers being another team, and now the Young Avengers are having to face off against the Dark Avengers eventually in this kind of this conflict that is an issue because they don't feel comfortable like doing what needs to be done to stop this team. And while they faced off against some smaller threats, smaller villains on their show, they haven't always pushed the Young Avengers to the point that the Dark Avengers would. So those are a few of my ideas and Greg's ideas that we talk about on the podcast. If you want to hear our full conversation on that, you can listen to the podcast that's coming out along with our conversation on Agatha All Along, episode 4. You can find the podcast here on YouTube, or and to do that, click on the channel and then the podcast tab, or you can find it wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcasts from. And if you enjoyed this content, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everybody who has already done so, and we'll see you next time.